Have you ever just felt, well, adrift?
Adrift, yeah.
Like you're surrounded by people, going through the motions, maybe even putting on a bit of a performance. But inside, you feel kind of lost, maybe, I don't know, empty?
That feeling, that sort of disconnect, wearing a mask, even in a crowd,
Yeah.
it's actually incredibly common.
Right.
And it's often a sign you're caught in a particular kind of trap.
Exactly. And the material we're diving into today, it really digs deep into that exact feeling. It calls it an invisible trap.
Invisible, yeah.
It might seem comfortable maybe on the surface, but ultimately it's just hollow. This source material actually gives it a name, the herd.
Yes, it paints this picture of a state that feels safe, but it lacks purpose.
Yeah.
Like being full but hollow inside, strangely enough.
Totally.
And the really tricky part is you often don't even remember when you stepped into it. It just happens.
Yeah, it creeps up on you. Maybe it started small. The first time someone said, oh, we don't do that, or you picked a career because it looked secure, not because you loved it.
Or even just flashing a fake smile to keep things smooth.
Right. And the material suggests that bit by bit, we sort of shape ourselves to fit in, filing down our own unique edges so we don't make weight.
Until, as it says, you weren't really yourself anymore.
Woo!
And what's really striking is how it describes this state. You're lost, but you're among others who are also lost. They're just pretending they know the way.
Yeah. Dressing up insecurities in the latest styles, confusing, just existing with actually belonging.
Or fitting in with truly living.
And it feels so weird because while it's happening to you, this material argues it's actually everywhere. We're kind of taught to fear being alone, aren't we?
We are.
But this source suggests there's something much worse, living surrounded by people but still feeling totally invisible.
Which really raises a big question then. If this is the trap, what does authentic freedom even look like? And, well, how do you even get there?
Well, the material points towards figures like Diogenes, suggesting he kind of grasped this way before many others did.
The philosopher in the barrel.
That's the one. True freedom, in this view, isn't about playing by the herd's rules. It's actually about breaking them.
Breaking them? How?
Specifically, breaking them with every action that pulls you back towards your own center, your own truth.
So while the world was chasing, appearances and stuff, Diogenes, as presented here anyway, he supposedly just stripped away all the artifice, lived simply.
Right. While others were looking for validation from the city, he's said to have just slept in a barrel, challenging that basic need to belong to, external things.
Okay, but sleeping in a barrel isn't exactly practical today.
Huh. No. And the source is quick to say, you don't need a barrel, but you do need courage.
Courage, okay.
The courage to look at the common path, the easy way, and just say, nope, that's not me. Even if it means people reject you. This material basically argues that the painful truth is way better than a comforting lie.
That distinction it makes is fascinating, isn't it? Between going with the flow, which just needs obedience, it says, and breaking away, which demands that courage you mentioned.
Yeah.
And the flow, according to this source, it always leads to the same place anyway. Mediocrity, conformity, a kind of personal oblivion.
And living authentically, really living instead of just getting by or pretending. Well, that comes with a pretty significant price tag.
The material spells it out.
Yeah.
The price is loneliness.
Ouch.
It really emphasizes that when you decide to step off that path, the first hit isn't from outside, it's internal.
Like your own mind turning on you.
Exactly. That mental echo just screaming, you're crazy, you'll end up alone, you get lost.
And okay, maybe you will get lost externally for a while. But the material argues that in that process, you actually find yourself.
Find yourself.
You see yourself like never before, brutally honest. The freedom someone like Diogenes showed isn't presented like a prize you win. It's more like a sentence you take on.
A sentence. That sounds harsh.
Well, yeah. But one, this source says, only the brave can actually turn into a privilege. It's not comfortable. It's definitely not easy. And there's zero guarantee, but it's yours.
That connection to discomfort seems absolutely key here.
Right.
The material talks about how people fill that internal void with just constant consumption, shallow relationships, mindless entertainment.
Anything to avoid that moment, right?
Exactly. That difficult moment of looking in the mirror and just telling yourself the truth without, trembling. The real challenge, it argues, isn't getting accepted. It's daring not to be.
And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit unsettling. The more real you become, the more authentic. The more you might actually annoy the people around you.
Yes, because your presence, according to this source, acts like an uncomfortable mirror for others.
For those who've kind of forgotten their own authenticity.
Or suppressed it, yeah. So they might label you strange, arrogant, difficult, maybe even dangerous.
Wow.
They might try to ridicule you, silence you, but the material insists this isn't really about you. It's because your freedom highlights their own chains, their own fears.
It's like the herd or the system behind it sort of punishes anyone who, because if you can leave, it proves they could too, maybe.
Exactly. Your freedom becomes a direct threat to their lack of it. And deep down, it says they know it.
So they might try to pull you back in line with contempt, mockery, even pity.
Anything to regain that sense of control. But the material suggests if you hold firm, if you don't buckle or go back to the script, something shifts.
What?
That fear they project, it can eventually turn into a kind of grudging respect. The loneliness transforms into strength, and the external noise just starts to fade.
Into silence.
And in that silence,
Yeah.
that's when you finally start to hear yourself. You realize you don't need anyone's approval but your own. You see really clearly that every single time you chose to please someone else instead of honoring yourself, it was like a small betrayal.
A betrayal of yourself.
Yeah. Every yes that came from fearing a no just added another brick to your own cell wall.
So this leads to that difficult truth the material presents. Real dignity isn't about being loved by everyone.
No. It's found in being free, even if, you lose that external validation or sense of belonging along the way.
Because, it argues, if what you have depends on not being yourself, you don't really have anything valuable anyway.
It really seems we live in a system, as this source describes it, that rewards fitting in and kind of punishes rebellion.
It labels independent thought as crazy, right? And calls blind obedience courage.
But what it fears most, it suggests, are those people who just cannot be controlled.
The ones who don't buy the official story.
The ones who dare to be themselves. Completely, even if it means walking alone.
And yeah, walking alone, that seems like it's definitely part of the deal, at least for a bit.
It will hurt, the material said. You'll doubt yourself. You'll probably want to go back to that familiar comfort of the group. Humans are wired for belonging, after all.
What?
But this material reminds us we're also wired to evolve, to break limits, to question things. And that kind of growth, it doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you face the abyss.
You know, lots of people think freedom means just doing whatever you want.
Right, like total impulse.
But this source pushes back on that. It says real freedom, quieter. It's the power of not needing to do what everyone else does.
Not needing to justify yourself all the time.
Exactly. Knowing you can say no without feeling crushed by guilt. Losing something external to stay true to yourself, that's never a real loss, it argues.
It feels like we often only grasp this later in life, doesn't it? Maybe after we feel like we've already sold off too many parts of ourselves.
When the soul feels kind of mortgaged?
Yeah, but the material's clear. It's never too late. Not if you make that decision to jump.
Jump?
To question everything, even your own core beliefs, because it suggests maybe many of them weren't truly yours anyway. They were just subtly put there from the outside.
Okay, so how do you even know if you're stuck in this herd way of thinking? The source gives some pretty direct questions to ask yourself.
Like what?
Like, how many people did you feel you had to check with, get approval from, before making a big decision? How many of your dreams are really your deep desires, not just echoes of what others expect?
That's a tough one.
How many times have you stayed silent, bitten your tongue, just to avoid awkwardness or conflict?
Or bent the truth, even lied, just to fit in better.
Yeah, these are uncomfortable questions.
Definitely. So stepping away from the herd then, it's framed as an act of internal war.
A war against conditioning, against fear, against mental laziness.
But maybe most of all against that domesticated version of yourself, the one that just kneels whenever the world demands conformity.
And the brutal truth, as this material really highlights, is that probably no one out there is going to give you a medal for this internal fight.
No applause.
Probably not. They'll likely look at you funny. Why? Because your personal freedom, your authenticity, it is a threat to the system.
Every truly free soul disrupts the matrix, it says. Every awakened mind is like a virus to conformity.
Wow.
But the push from this source is clear. Don't stop. Even if everything feels shaky, even if surface level connections fall apart, even if the loneliness really bites, keep going.
Because in the end, when all that external noise finally dies down, who's left?
Just you.
And the material insists, even if you don't believe it right now, that is enough.
Yes, this freedom is presented almost like a sentence, doesn't it? A weight you carry alone.
But also the only way to look the world in the eye without flinching. Only way to live without constantly asking mission.
The only way, perhaps, to reach the end without those deep, haunting regrets. It's the kind of truth Diogenes, in his own way, kind of shouted with his whole life.
He showed it by choosing to let the world see him as crazy, right? But crucially, choosing to see himself as wise.
And this material suggests that you, if you dare, can become that crazy one too. The one who chooses freedom rebels against the chain, internal and external.
The one who stops crawling for a spot in a group where you never truly fit anyway.
The herd, it offers comfort. But comfort, this source warns very clearly, can be the opium of the soul.
And the soul wasn't made for cushions, it says. It was made to burn, to break, to rebuild.
So the choice laid out is pretty stark. Keep being an accepted shadow or become fire, even if that means burning the bridges back to that familiar, comfortable conformity.
What makes you different, this material states really strongly, is exactly what will set you free in the end.
And freedom isn't something you beg for or wait to be given. It's something you conquer with courage by walking through the fear, through the loneliness. Only those who dare to be truly alone with themselves, it seems, finally figure out who they are.
And when you find that core self, you understand why you could never really belong anywhere that asked you to stop you.
Let the world roar. Let the herd bark. This material basically says you just walk your path.
Because while they might be living for approval,
you, by choosing this, start living to be free. And that just changes the entire game.
Okay, but just when you think you've got it figured out, like the external herd is the enemy.
Right.
The material throws in a curveball, something way more subtle, more poisonous, and harder to spot, the internal imitator.
Yes. The voice that isn't outside anymore. It's like it got installed inside you, like a program or a virus.
It's the echo, right, of all that conditioning from parents, teachers, bosses, even friends you tried to impress.
So at this point, you don't even need society watching you. You've basically become your own jailer.
This is where the real trap lies, the most insidious one, self-censorship.
That constant inner voice repeating patterns and beliefs that aren't actually yours.
Yeah, they're just fragments of someone else's story, someone else's fears that got pushed onto you. It comes out as those quiet little phrases.
You can't do that. That's not for people like you.
You're definitely gonna fail.
Everyone will laugh.
Oh, yeah. The most brilliant and maybe the most terrifying part of the system described here, it's not that it controls you with external punishments anymore.
It's that it teaches you to punish yourself.
Exactly. You might genuinely believe you're making free choices, but often you're just playing out an internal script you didn't even know was there, an imposed one.
Which is precisely why just physically leaving a group or changing where you live or isolating yourself, it's not enough.
Not if you still see yourself through their eyes.
Right. If you still judge yourself by their internalized rules, you haven't actually freed yourself then. You've just, changed the location of your cage.
True exile, true separation. It's not just physical. It has to be mental. Fundamentally mental.
You could be totally alone, physically cut off, but if you're still living in constant fear of that invisible judgment, you haven't really left the herd's influence.
You're just in the waiting room of freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Not truly inside. The real break happens, this material suggests, when you start uninstalling those ingrained external voices one by one.
When you face the scary possibility of being wrong, but for the first time, it's based on your own conviction, not just obedience or guilt or needing approval.
That's the point where being alone, where silence stops being scary and starts to feel cleansing.
Where you stop wondering if you're okay by outside standards.
And just start feeling that you're being yourself, raw, unedited. Without the mask, you didn't even realize you were still wearing inside.
But watch out, because the material says there's another subtle trap right here. The desire to immediately form a new tribe. Tribe of the awakened or the free. Seeking belonging in the very act of not belonging.
Swapping one uniform for another.
Exactly. This source warns they can be just as dangerous. Genuine freedom isn't about getting a new uniform. It's about stopping the need for one altogether. You don't need a new label, a new unism, a new guru.
The paradox it presents is that the deeper you go towards your true self, the more you realize your path is just utterly unique.
Personal, unrepeatable.
Yeah. And any attempt to copy someone else's path or find people walking exactly beside you all the time can actually mess up the whole point of this individual journey.
And here, the material suggests is maybe the deepest fear of all.
Deeper than loneliness or judgment.
Yeah. The profound fear of total responsibility.
Oof. Because when you can't blame society anymore, or your parents, or the system, or your circumstances.
Only you are left.
And facing that, the source admits it's dizzying, it's brutal. No more excuses.
If you fail, it's on you. If you get lost, you're doing. If you do nothing, that's your choice too.
The flip side is also true. The achievement is yours too. The transformation, the fire you build from the ashes of what you burned down, that's yours.
So freedom becomes this weird double-edged thing, a heavy burden of responsibility, but also an incredible privilege at the same time.
You can't lie to yourself anymore and say, I had to do this.
Now you know. What you do because you chose it, even if it hurts, even if it costs you, even if nobody else sees or claps.
And then there might be one last thing, right?
Yeah.
That lingering desire for it all to have some grand meaning or purpose.
That last search for external validation of the struggle.
But this path teaches one more lesson, it seems. You don't need some imposed meaning or a perfect script for your life.
Sometimes the source suggests life just needs to be lived, felt, breathed, raw.
The mistake is wanting to understand it all. Wanting the map and the guarantee before you're willing to take the first step or make the jump.
Authenticity, this material concludes, it doesn't come with an instruction manual. There's no map, no safety net, no promise of ease.
There's just now, this moment, where you make that internal choice to stop looking outside for what can only ever be built inside.
Remember Diogenes laughing at Alexander the Great when Alexander offered him anything he wanted?
Yeah, because this source suggests he knew something profound. You don't need external power if you already possess yourself.
You don't need status or perks if you're not dependent on anyone else's opinion just to be who you are.
That, it suggests, is the highest summit. Even if you're just standing quietly on the ground, no banners, no audience.
So the invitation from this source material, it feels brutal, honestly, naked, and ultimately kind of final.
Don't just stand at the edge of the herd looking back wistfully.
Don't be that perpetual exile who secretly craves the comfort they left behind.
Instead, it urges, be the one who deliberately sets fire to the village behind them.
Be the one who turns solitude into a sacred space, a temple for self-discovery.
Be the one who stops waiting, not for validation, and definitely not for permission to simply exist.
Because when you finally dare to live without playing to that invisible audience,
you find out that what you thought was freedom before, that was just the locked door.
And now the real life, your life, can finally begin.
But wait. There's still another layer this material touches on, something you might feel but can't quite name.
What's that?
That sense of always being somehow in debt, a kind of nameless guilt, an invisible weight you drag around even when you haven't done anything objectively wrong.
Ah, yes. This source suggests that's a side effect of living for so long, measuring your worth by rules you didn't make.
Believing, maybe implicitly, that you have to constantly earn the right to exist.
Yeah, that if you're not producing, achieving, standing out, you don't deserve your place.
It's like being trained for a race, but you don't know why you're running. There's no actual finish.
And any applause you get fades way faster than the wounds you pick up trying to win it.
And the trap gets really clever. You might think you're free because you have, tons of choices, right? Different careers, lifestyles, opinions.
But they're all within a pretty narrow range.
Yeah.
You're never really offered the choice to step outside the system that defines those options.
So what kind of freedom is that, really? The material asks, pretty pointedly, is it just the freedom to choose the brand of your shackles? So it pushes us to ask, how much of what you do every day is truly authentically yours?
How often did you choose from real desire? That inner knowing versus choosing from fear.
Fear of disappointing someone, fear of failure.
Or maybe the biggest one, fear of being fundamentally alone. This material suggests that the fear that paralyzes most people isn't failing a task.
Good deeper.
It's that primal fear of abandonment, the terrifying thought that if you're not what they expect, whoever they are, they'll stop loving you, stop validating.
And here's the big, almost revolutionary point the source made, that fear. That constant anxiety about not being enough to be loved.
It doesn't go away with more external success or louder applause.
No, it only starts to dissolve with one radical internal decision to stop living your life primarily in order to be loved by others.
Wow.
As long as you're chasing that external approval, the material argues you'll never be truly free. You'll just be an actor, playing a part.
And the real tragedy isn't playing the role.
It's forgetting you are acting, coming to believe the mask actually is your face.
Diogenes, by choosing authenticity over approval, had a kind of dignity, a coherence.
That this material implies many people with huge external wealth or power just lack.
Coherence, that's a powerful word here, where what you genuinely think, what you authentically feel, and what you choose to do, they actually line up.
Yes, this source material strongly connects that internal coherence with genuine well-being. Living in constant dissonance, it suggests, the body feels it.
Creates tension, can even make you sick.
Exactly. The soul, it argues, just wasn't built to pretend to be something it's not for decades on end.
That deep exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. That low-level sadness with no clear reason. That anxiety that pops up even when things look fine.
This material suggests it's often because you've been wearing a mask for so long, you physically can't hold it up anymore. And the terror is
you're afraid to take it off because you genuinely don't know who or what is underneath.
But the source insists, maybe counterintuitively, that the mask isn't protecting you. It's doing the opposite.
It's rotting your connection to yourself, separating you from your core, forcing you into a life that isn't really yours.
The herd, as it's described here, isn't just people out there. It's a mentality, a prison without bars, but held up by invisible, powerful rules.
And the underlying system, whatever it looks like, benefits hugely when you submit to those rules.
It benefits, the material points out, when you're constantly buying stuff you don't need to impress people you don't really care about.
Or working yourself to the bone at something you might secretly despise, just to keep up a lifestyle that doesn't actually fulfill you.
The struggle isn't just for identity, it's for emotional survival. If you don't consciously, deliberately take charge of your own inner world,
you risk just fading, turning gray.
And a great soul, this source states pretty starkly, is worse than a broken, because a broken one can, at least, potentially rebuild.
So the path forward, according to this material, it isn't just about physically leaving the herd. It's about creating your own internal world.
Your own language for reality, your own rituals that mean something to you.
Your own definitions of success, of a meaningful life. As long as you're using their words, their measurements, their definitions.
You're playing their game. And this material suggests you'll always lose that game, eventually.
Create your own internal calendar. Decide what moments you celebrate. Learn the power of saying no.
Clearly, unapologetically, without feeling like you owe pages of explanation.
Learn to be truly alone without feeling broken or incomplete.
And learn, crucially, to value yourself without feeling guilty or arrogant. Self-acceptance isn't arrogance, it argues. It's justice. Repairing the damage from years of making yourself small out of fear of being too much.
Yes, and if you commit to this path, you will lose things. That seems unavoidable.
You'll likely lose people who only connected with the mask.
You might lose opportunities that required compromising your core.
But what you gain, this material argues, is genuinely priceless peace.
An inner peace that doesn't rely on what's happening outside, doesn't need witnesses, doesn't ask permission.
Exactly. The peace born naturally when all the pieces of you, thoughts, feelings, actions, finally start pointing in the same direction. That, this source insists, is the ultimate win.
To get to that state, it's like defeating the external system and the internal programming, not by fighting or shouting.
But just by having the quiet courage to be yourself.
Really?
Uncompromising, right to the core.
And if listening to this has stirred something in you, if it feels maybe uncomfortable, but also...
It's likely because something deep inside is already shifting, already starting to break free.
That feeling of unrest you might have, this material suggests it might not mean you're broken.
It might mean you're waking up. Your true self is knocking, trying to get your attention.
But this awakening, the material warns it isn't necessarily like gentle or warm.
More like a fire.
Yeah. It involves demolition, often brutal demolition of everything you were without really wanting to be.
It's scary precisely because growth hurts. Real evolution, in this view, means actively betraying a part of yourself.
Specifically, the part you built, the character you played out of fear or for acceptance.
And here's maybe the final twist, the most unexpected insight this source offered. The real ultimate enemy. It isn't the external herd.
Or the system. Or even judgmental people.
No, it's you, but not the authentic core you.
It's the molded you, the domesticated you, the program.
That version of you living mechanically by an external script you never chose. Repeating inherited beliefs, carrying borrowed fears, operating inside limit that you didn't set.
That's the you that this material suggests just can't keep up the pretense anymore without breaking.
And if you've listened this far and felt that deep resonance, it's probably because a part of you just cannot bear the farce any longer.
A part of you desperately wants to scream, burn it down, start over, and live for real.
According to this source, you are not broken. You are not lost in a bad way. You are, in fact, ready. Ready to live without needing an audience. Ready to walk your own path without needing roots someone else planted. Ready to fail without apologizing. Ready to feel everything without shame. Ready to think your own thoughts without permission. Ready to write your own manifesto for living.
Ready to finally be who you always were underneath it all, before the world told you who you should be.
And when you reach that state, this source suggests you realize something both chilling and incredibly freeing. No one else can save you from yourself or the traps you set.
Crucially,
no one can truly stop you either. Not when you make that internal decision to be free. The strongest barrier, this material concludes, is always the one you keep feeding inside.
And the wildest, most profound freedom is born exactly when you stop needing to be understood or accepted by anyone but yourself.
So let's just take a moment and recap this powerful journey the source material guided us through.
Okay.
We started by recognizing those pervasive external pressures.
Right.
The herd, quiet pain of conforming.
Yeah. And then moved to confronting that much deeper internal battle against the molded self, that inner imitator.
And finally, facing that ultimate fear of total responsibility for our own life.
And this material really hammered home that true freedom isn't just about physical distance or outward rebellion. It's fundamentally an internal liberation.
Mm-hmm. One that demands real courage, deep self-acceptance, and the willingness to face down that fear of not being understood or accepted.
And getting to that state, the one described as having inner peace and coherent, where thinking, feeling, doing all align.
That's presented here as the ultimate victory, the real pride, even if it means letting go of external validation or that surface sense of belonging.
It is definitely a challenging path. The material doesn't sugarcoat that. It's not easy, not comfortable.
No, but it leads based on these insights to a profoundly deeper, more truthful, and ultimately a more authentic way to live the one life you have.
Absolutely.
And so we want to leave you with the final provocative thought drawn from this source material, something for you to sit with, consider, maybe even act on.
Okay, what is it?
The fundamental challenge is simply this. Dare to take off the mask.
Take it off.
And see who, authentically, is still standing there when the character you've been playing finally falls away.
And if the very idea of doing that scares you?
This source suggests that might just be the clearest sign yet that you are truly ready for transformation.